Hi, I'm Dr. Jenny Rankin, and we'll be looking at ways changes to technology-based data reporting can improve educators' data analyses. I'm an educator who also has background in EdTech and design. I've spent the bulk of my career as an educator, having been a teacher, site administrator, and district administrator, but I've also served as Chief Education and Research Officer of an educational technology company specializing in data systems. My greatest passion is helping other educators improve their use of data to help students. We know educators armed with data to inform decisions is a powerful tool. However, data can transform learning in a bad way if educators misunderstand the data and thus use it to make poor decisions. Data-informed decision-making, often called data-driven decision-making, is a process educators employ to transform learning and improve student success. First, educators view data in reports generated by a data system, which is any computer system educators can use to access and analyze student data. There are many types of different data systems, but they can all be used on a computer to give educators data-based feedback on entities such as students. Most educators have access to these data systems for generating and analyzing score reports. 44% of educators use these data systems directly, but the majority view printed versions of reports. Others use the data systems to generate for them. But whether they are viewing reports on a computer or in their hands, these data reports generally originate in data systems. There are many types of data systems which generally house data like a data warehouse, but also arrange the data within topic-specific or data-specific reports with the goal of educators being able to use those data reports to inform decisions. Overall, most educators are eager to analyze this data to make decisions, but they cannot make correct analyses if they do not understand how to do so. For example, one of the most comprehensive studies on educator data use was conducted by the U.S. Department of Education at 9 school districts known for strong data use. Despite these reputations and all of the supports in place, researchers found teachers answered only 48% of questions correctly when interpreting data. In another study at 13 school districts, also considered exemplars of data use, the U.S. Department of Ed found teachers achieved only 48% accuracy, again, when making inferences about data involving basic statistical concepts. The report noted it's unlikely other districts would perform any better. To improve student learning, educators must know how to correctly analyze student data, yet many do not. For example, many teachers and administrators don't know fundamental data analysis concepts, and 70% have never taken a college or postgraduate course in educational measurement. The bottom line is, educators' data use impacts students. Data can be a good thing, but when educators misunderstand the data they get from data systems, these misunderstandings cripple data use in school districts. Sadly, there is an abundance of evidence educators of all levels are making data analyses that are commonly incorrect. This led me to research what is currently being done to improve educators' inaccurate data analyses. In most literature, the responsibility of improving analyses was placed with the educators themselves. Most school districts are employing solutions that fall into two categories. One is professional development, or PD, involving classes or training to teach educators how to better analyze data. The other solution relates to staff, involving staffing hires or arrangements such as strong data leaders, teams, or experts. PD and staff tend to be beneficial to data use, and they are definitely recommended. However, neither approach is foolproof for achieving data competence. For example, in one study where teachers received PD and measurement, all teachers struggled afterwards with statistical terms and measurement concepts. Likewise, staff supports don't always operate as intended. Knowledge management research indicated knowledge can be hard to share with others, even when the intention to share it is there, especially when power or status is involved. Given that educators are already doing what they can to improve their data analyses, yet these highly educated professionals continue to struggle despite added staff and PD, we need to consider the tool these educators use for data analysis. There is extensive evidence data systems do have an impact on educators' data use. They can include supports that likely improve educators' data use, but almost no data systems offer such supports. So I researched a field where the product is known to feature comprehensive support in the use of its contents. I researched over-the-counter medication where it would be negligent to not help users understand how to use the contents. People using medication can read how to use the product's contents through varied supports, such as the product's detailed label. Someone wondering, how many pills should I take? Or is this medicine for the type of flu I have? Can immediately learn the answers to these questions through a variety of means. There is also evidence the types of added textual support found on over-the-counter medicine can be employed with non-medication products where they also result in improved use. I considered, what if data systems contained such supports, essentially making data over-the-counter in that the data system's users would be better supported in the data's use? Could these supports help educators using data? My own study looked at what happens to educators' data analyses when data systems contain these first two features, which offer report-specific textual support for educators analyzing data. Most data systems currently report data without added support in how to correctly analyze data, thus failing to contain footers offering information pertinent to correct analyses. Failing to offer reference sheets, which can be thought of as one-page sheets to accompany reports, and failing to offer reference guides, which guide educators in the use of a specific report's data. So I conducted a quantitative study to determine the degree to which including 3 different forms of data usage guidance within a data system reporting environment could have that impact. I employed a cross-sectional sampling procedure and incorporated responses from 211 educators of all school levels, spanning transitional kindergarten through 12th grade, of all veteran levels, working in varied roles, and at schools with a range of demographics. This study did not rely on participants' preferences or perceived value of supports. Rather, the study was used to measure specifically how effective varied analysis supports are in improving educators' data analysis accuracy. And it was found these supports significantly improve educators' understanding of the data contents. Much like including different forms of usage guidance with over-the-counter medicine is needed to properly communicate how to use its contents. All supports investigated in the study had a significant impact on educators' data analysis accuracy. All secondary independent variables concerning school and educator demographics had an insignificant impact on these supports' success. This means regardless of an educator's role, background, or school site, these supports proved significantly effective. Likewise, there were no significant differences between the effectiveness of the moderately different formats used for each support. Either format could be used for each support in order to garner the same type of benefits. In the control group, where participants viewed the same data as other participants but received no embedded supports, educators answered only 11% of data analysis questions correctly. 87% of them indicated they would have used added support such as footers, reference sheets, or reference guides if they had received them. When a footer was simply present, regardless of its use, data analysis was 307% more accurate. And when footers were present, they were used 73% of the time. When used, data analysis was 307% more accurate. When a reference sheet was simply present, regardless of its use, data analysis was 205% more accurate. When reference sheets were present, they were used half of the time, and when they were used, data analysis was 300% more accurate. When a reference guide was present, data analysis was 273% more accurate. When they were present, they were used 52% of the time, and when they were used, data analysis was 436% more accurate. Overall, when any one of these three supports was simply present, regardless of its use, data analysis was 264% more accurate. When they were present, they were used 58% of the time, and when supports were used, data analysis was 355% more accurate. Since all supports were wanted, well used, and significantly effective, let's take a look at how the supports can be structured in a data system. A footer specific to that particular report's data should be present at the bottom of each report, communicating only the most vital information an educator would need to analyze this particular data correctly, such as stopping him or her from making common mistakes. Since users who are analyzing the data incorrectly often don't know they're analyzing it incorrectly, the footer shouldn't be easy to overlook, so it should match the font of the rest of the report, for example, the same size. It should also follow length guidelines and aim for brevity, or else it won't be read. Good guidelines are 224 to 324 characters with spaces, or 1 to 3 lines of text. Report-specific reference sheets and reference guides should also be present, accessible via links from the report. They should be printable, and educators should be able to save them as PDF files. Free templates are available on my website to guide you or your data system provider through the creation of report-specific reference sheets and reference guides. All reference sheets you create should be consistent in appearance and in the type of content they provide, as this makes them easier for educators to use, and the same goes for reference guides. Next, we'll look at the type of content they contain. At the top, you have the title and description, as well as an image of the report, so it's clear which report this reference sheet should be used with. Then you have the report's purpose, such as a list of key questions the report can help educators answer. In giving the report's focus, the reference sheet can answer who is the intended audience, what data is reported, and how is the data reported. Finally, the warning addresses whatever concept educators most commonly misunderstand when analyzing data in this particular report. The warning should also provide educators with the correct way to avoid the common error. As for a report's reference guide, it's like an expanded version of the reference sheet, since some users need more guidance than others. Thus, the first page of a report's reference sheet is identical to the reference guide, though page numbers have been added and it is labeled as the reference guide. After that, you have an additional page or 2 or 3, whatever you need to walk an educator through the use of the report. Let's take a look at those added pages that the reference guide features. At the top of page 2, you have instructions on how to read the report. After that, you have the essential questions section, which may span multiple pages. Basically, you take each question featured on the first page's purpose section, and you walk the reader through the process of how to use the report to answer that specific question. For example, where the user should look, what he or she should look for, etc. Examples are particularly helpful. At the end of the reference guide, add a more info section to point the educator in the right direction for assistance with any likely needs he or she might have. There are other ways to make data over the counter for educators, which were covered in my study's literature review due to existing literature on their merit. For example, just as 50 million people per year use the online help system WebMD for their medical needs, educators using data also crave a way to search topics and have their data-related questions answered. A shorter, targeted manual or user-friendly help system causes users to need 40% less training time and to successfully complete 50% more tasks than they would have accomplished with only access to a full-size manual. One of the most important ways to make data over the counter for educators is the package or display of the reports. You would never ingest medicine from a product with an outdated expiration date, a misspelled label, or other appearance infractions. Effectively displayed data is equally important for anyone consuming that data to help kids. Lastly, a remedy for the flu will not make you feel better if all it actually contains is sugar and food coloring. Likewise, it won't help as much and could be outright dangerous if the content is past its expiration date. Just as the content of an over-the-counter product is crucial to its effectiveness, the same goes for the content of data reports. These 5 over-the-counter components are vital to helping people use an over-the-counter product safely and effectively. The components are very important since the product affects the well-being of people it is used to treat. Whenever we report education data, such as within data systems or the reports it generates, we owe it to the students affected to make the data over the counter. My research website, displayed at the top of this slide, contains a reference list for all sources cited in this presentation. It also contains other important tools for improving the effectiveness of your own reporting tools. It features reporting standards I created based on over a decade of research into this topic, which any data system can reflect to make education data over the counter and thus easy to understand and use. The site has free templates to make it easy for you to create your own reference sheet and reference guides, and all resources and more are of course free, so they can help as many educators and students as possible. This concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do for students.